So welcome to part 3 of the rebuild series, and as you can probably tell already, I am surrounded by a lot of brand new BMW parts. Pretty much everything that you see laid out here came in one massive box, and that box came from LLL Parts. I'll put a link in the description below. They pretty much sell every genuine Audi, BMW and Mercedes part, but normally a little bit cheaper than the main dealer. So that's who I went to get all of these. You may have also seen in there that there was a front bumper, so I've managed to get that second hand, and that is in the correct colour. So it's Hockenheim silver. It's got a minor little bit of damage on the one corner, but we'll get that sorted when the rest of the paintwork is done. What you may not have seen are these. So I've got a lot of grills and bits of plastic that are still in the bubble wrap. I've got 3 grills for this front bumper. I've also got a carbon kidney grill, which is in the house. That's brand new. I've also still got a couple of parts on the way. So I've got a used gearbox oil cooler coming, and I've also got some complete standard OEM suspension with shocks and springs, just because I'm starting to wonder if the front of this car is a bit more damaged than I first thought. So they're on their way, and I think that it's about time now that we head over to the board and update you on the costs of this project to date. So the all-important part, how much is this project costing me? So I've got a breakdown here. I've tidied this list up since the last video. So I'm going to break it down now on how much it cost me to finish putting the rear end back together once I'd done the subframe. I got a front wing, which I've managed to buy from BMW. I'll cover that in a minute. And how much this massive box of parts cost me, including the second-hand front bumper and a few other little bits like the oil cooler that I bought. So the rear end, this is obviously on top of the subframe. It cost me an additional £513. So that was including the eye-back lowering springs, which I didn't need to buy, but I thought it was quite nice to have. The front wing, like I say, from BMW, brand new in primer, £337. And the most expensive bit, dropped my pen. And the most expensive bit was this massive order of brand new parts, which came to a total of £2,915. So the grand total that we're at now, so far, is £24,109. And bearing in mind, there's still a couple of £1,000 I think to spend. The biggest part of that is going to be paint. So I haven't actually covered that at all in any of the other videos, but there is a fair amount of bodywork that needs doing on this car. Most of the panels have got dents or scratches, so they're going to need a little bit of attention, shall we say. So I think we'll move on to that bit next. So I think it's about time we talk about the bodywork. As I say in the previous clip now, there's several dents, scratches all over this car. So I think it's a good time to now sort of talk about what they are. So I don't know if you can see that one on camera there, but there's a really nasty mark on this crease line. And that is where this glass was actually smashed out of the wing mirror. As you can see, there's a little bit of damage to the glass there. And it was swinging down, hit the door, and it was still attached by the cable. So luckily, well, I suppose luckily, the glass mostly stayed intact. I think we'll get away with that for now. We'll change that at a later date. But it means that this door needs some attention, as well as another dent here. And kindly, the guys at Copart, thank you very much, managed to jam the forklift into the side skirt. So there's actually a couple of little marks here. So that's going to need repairing. Luckily it doesn't, I don't think it needs replacing, it's just going to be repaired. I've got a bit of a strange little crease line just above the rear light here. Not quite sure how that's happened, but this part of the arch has also been pushed in, so that this section will be a paintless dent removal. So hopefully we'll get away with that bit. But then if we go around the other side, the quarter panel on the passenger side has got a very nasty dent with quite a bit of paint damage there. Another strange little crease there, which is only visible in some lights. We've got a little dip here, only minor, so that can be repaired. There's also a little bit of damage to the door here. So that all in all means that this whole passenger side is essentially going to need repainting. I think the side skirt is alright on this side. And there is no wing currently, because as I said, I had a brand new one in primer. I got it fitted, lined up, panel gaps all lovely, but that is now off being painted. So yeah, that kind of covers everything for the bodywork. Unfortunately, my good luck seems to be running out on this car, and I found a potentially big issue with the engine, which isn't so good. So let's move on to that. So you join me down the front end of the car. If you look under there, you might just be able to make out a little bowl which is catching some oil. Great, there's an oil leak on this car. First inspections looks to be the sump that's causing the issue. Looking at the sump, you can see there's a nasty scratch on it, and I think there may be a hairline crack, so that's not good. So this bit's quite difficult to film, but you may just be able to make out a few little drops of oil on the front subframe, but there's also some drops on the lowest part of the sump here. Looking at it, I can't see any patches of oil above the sump line, so I'm pretty sure it's coming from the sump. But annoyingly, in order to remove the sump, I've got to remove this front subframe. And in order to do that, I need to support the weight of the engine. So I've had to wait for a new tool to come. So let's get cracking on that job. It's a couple of days later, and here is the tool that I've been waiting on. So this is a 300 kilogram engine support bar. So I've currently hooked it up. It's sat between the strut towers, the little chassis rails that come from the strut towers. So it's all nice and secure. I've just taken the weight of the engine, so that's all good to go now. So that means we're now able to unbolt the engine mounts from the front subframe. So let's crack on. Oh, and really quickly before we start, you may notice that the front wing is now back from paint. Look at how good that looks. Anyway, front subframe, let's go. So now is a good time to check the front subframe, make sure that we haven't got any bends, twists or damage to the front subframe anywhere while it's off. But the main reason we took it off obviously is to look at this oil leak under the sump. So let's see what we can see. So we've got much better visibility of the sump now it's all off. You can see the drip marks that are on the sump there. So I've got to try and find out where that's coming from now. So this is pretty difficult to film, but since the last shot I've just taken off the engine mount which was sat here, which is now on the floor. There's my cap, by the way. And I've just been cleaning it all up to try and find out where this oil leak is coming from, and I think I've just found this tiny little hairline crack, and as I've cleaned it up it's just getting a little bit damp again, which is good news. So at least we found the problem. I think the next thing to do now is get this sump off,
Obviously drain the oil first, get the sump off, and then I'm going to see if it's repairable.
I've actually got somebody lined up to fix the sump on this. I'm told that he's one of the best welders when it comes to aluminium. So I don't think that's cutting corners. I'm looking at about £700 for a brand new sump, which I really don't want to have to pay. So I think if I can get this repaired for a reasonable price, I think that would be good enough. I mean, as long as they can guarantee it's not going to leak, I would be happy with that. So it's a couple of days away till I can get that repaired, so I'm going to sort of cover all of this up now with some tarpaulin just to stop any rain and moisture. But I think there's a good time to wrap this video up. We'll sort of join again for part 4 when I can refit the sump, hopefully when it's repaired, providing it can be repaired. And yeah, so that's sort of it for this video. So don't forget to subscribe if you like it, and join me again for part 4.